19th Sunday in Ordinary Time continues our journey through the Gospel of John, chapter 6. Although we're in the year B, which is the year of St. Mark's Gospel, as we've been seeing here, the church takes something of a break from the Gospel of Mark and focuses our attention on the Gospel of St. John, chapter 6, for 5 Sundays in a row. This is the third Sunday that we're focusing on John 6, and now we're actually moving into the Bread of Life Discourse proper. We've looked at Jesus' feeding of the 5,000 2 Sundays ago, and then last Sunday we looked at some of the exchange between Jesus and the crowds that led to his Bread of Life Discourse when they asked him to give them the new manna forever, always. Now we're actually looking at what he has to say about this new manna, about this bread from heaven. And now he's beginning to use the manna to reveal 2 mysteries. The mystery of his divinity, of his heavenly origin, as the bread of life come in person, and also the mystery of the sacrament of the Eucharist, the mystery of his real presence in the bread and the wine of the Lord's Supper. So let's, without any further ado, turn back to John chapter 6. Today, the Gospel is from verses 41 through 51. The Jews then murmured at him because he had said, "I am the bread which came down from heaven." And they said, "Is this not Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How does he now say, 'I have come down from heaven'?" Jesus answered them, "Do not murmur among yourselves. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, they shall all be taught by God. Everyone who has heard and learned from the Father comes to me. Not that anyone has seen the Father except him who is from God. He has seen the Father. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes has eternal life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. And the bread which I shall give for the life of the world is my flesh." All right, let's stop there. All right, so what's going on in this particular gospel? Well, in this case, we're getting into the heart of Jesus' Bread of Life discourse. And it's a little unfortunate that the verses are selected in the way they are, because it obscures the structure of the discourse from John's gospel. If you read through John 6 in its entirety, and not in just the selected verses given to us in lectionary, what you'll see is that there are 2 parts to Jesus' Bread of Life discourse. We looked at the beginning of the first part last Sunday, and then it picks up in the middle of the first part this Sunday. But the 2 parts can be broken down as follows. The first part begins in John 6, verse 35, when Jesus says, "I am the bread of life. He who comes to me shall not hunger. He who believes in me shall never thirst." In that first part of the Bread of Life discourse, which starts in verse 35 and then goes all the way down to verse 47, Jesus uses the manna from heaven as a metaphor for his own divinity, as a symbol, a kind of a sign of the fact that just like the manna was heavenly in origin, so too Jesus is heavenly in origin. He, as the bread of life, has come down from heaven. In other words, he has become incarnate. He is the God who has become man. So the first part of the discourse is really focusing on Jesus' divinity, and you can see also an emphasis on the word faith or believe, pisteuo in Greek. So but before Jesus gets into talking about the sacrament of the Eucharist or eating his flesh, the first thing he says is, "I want you to believe that I have come down from heaven."